Right, morning everyone. Thanks for coming out to see this presentation today from MAPP Digital. And myself, I'm Josh. I'm the Global Retail, Principal Director of Global Retail and CPG over here at MAPP. We're a customer data platform coming at this. I've been working with the business for over 12 years now, supporting retailers across North America, Europe, Nordics, and the like. So hopefully I can bring some expertise about real world situations, about how brands are building their MarTech stack today. And this is how we look to see brands are bringing together lots of different types of technology to optimize their kind of marketing outputs. And yeah, I'm going to show how brands are starting to do this. And then also we're going to look into some deep dive tactics about what you can do today to kind of make those kind of differentials in your marketing campaigns. So again, thanks for joining. And yeah, by all means, we have questions at the end of the session or come up and see us. And yeah, more than happy to take that as well. Perfect. Cool, let me just transition back. So quick agenda for today. So firstly, what is the marketing stack? I'm sure you guys all will know, but let's go and have a little look at that. We are in the AI theater, so what better than asking ChatGPT what that actually is? So what options are then going to be available for our brand? There are so many different routes that you can go down, from different e-com right through to loyalty, for instance. So we're going to look at some of the different technology options that are out there and how brands pull these pieces together. And then next up, we're going to look at some of the different components that make up kind of CDP, marketing automation, personalization, gamification, loyalty, and then actually look at some real life brand scenarios about how they're doing this and some results. And then finally, we've got a brand showcase. Again, how are they doing this, and starting to bring some real world examples to the play as well. So again, as I said, we're in the AI-powered theater, so my one AI real reference here. So again, what is a marketing technology stack? But for brands, obviously, it's about bringing together sometimes best-in-breed technology at different component levels across CRM, CMS, email marketing, social marketing, mobile marketing, gamification, loyalty, all these component pieces that you're here today exploring in Ecom Expo. All of these pieces come together to build up that kind of optimization strategy for your consumers. So it's about what pieces can work really nicely together, what integrates well, what tells the same stories, that we can actually give that seamless customer experience to your brands. Okay, so we're going to look at it from a couple of different standpoints. I'm going to have a little bit of a take on this as well. So if we're thinking today, we can think bricks and mortar retail consumers. We can think e-com businesses. There are subscription businesses. There are various different types of brands and businesses out there. And they all follow different types of business models from my experience as well. So we're going to look at it from a different couple of angles, but bear in mind that it's kind of hopefully applicable to all. And I'm going to make a reference today to a bit of an archaic 1980s TV show called Blockbusters. It did go through the, sorry? Wow, there we go. You're going to love my graphics in a minute. Perfect. I like this. I would say archaic. I shouldn't say archaic. That's a bit harsh as well. But yeah, we're going to reference Blockbusters. This is a little game show. It doesn't matter if you've not seen this before. But the idea here is that you have to get from one end of the board to the other. And this is kind of similar to your tech stack today. So I'm going to play a bit of nostalgia for the gentleman in the orange shirt. So here we go. I'm sure he remembers this well. With Bob Holness. Very good. OK, cool, in the 1980s. I love this. So yeah, a little bit of nostalgia for the man. And yeah, so we're going to look at this kind of Blockbusters approach to MarTech today. OK, so here is my own very much Blockbusters board. And I'm not going to take through every single landscape of technology. We'll probably be here for more than the 20 minutes that I've got allocated. But we are going to take a little approach from the kind of more common e-com stack that you probably are seeing. And then we can see how kind of composable architecture comes today. So MAPP are part of the MAC Alliance, and this composable architecture of best in breed is something that we are advocating for quite often. And we can see it in principle. So we're going to start off with typical kind of where a lot of brands start with, which is that e-com shop, right? So your Shopify's, your Magentos, BigCommerce, Commerce Tools, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Shoplines. You know the type of ones that are on, but this is all about that kind of storefront view to your consumers. And today's not a talk about which is best, and you have to choose these options together to work best, but it's just an approach of adopting technology, okay? So once people have their e-com and their storefronts viewable to their users, I know it's much harder than that. You've got your payment providers, you've got your content that goes on there. I'm simplifying for the purpose of today. But the next thing that typically happens is with these customers, they might go into some form of CRM. So some form of customer relationship management. You might have customer services that need to understand what these customers are doing. You're getting the flow of the data typically that's coming from the e-com through to a CRM. or to some form of kind of marketing automation tool. Then you can go into that kind of ability of having these kind of like point solutions. So some brands have kind of point solutions in different types of sections for email and then maybe SMS, but also there are ways to kind of combine these solutions into more kind of marketing automation platforms as well. So again, you've got your kind of point solutions here, you've got your SMS kind of gateway providers, your attentives, your gateways like Infobit, Mito, Cinch. These are ways to direct these comms out to the users. And typically brands are either directly integrating these into some form of central CDP or using some other stacks as well. When we're talking about customers as well, you've got the idea around personalisation. So personalisation both from an on-site perspective, we've got one of our great partners here, Nosto, and Turbo up here as examples, but this is for on-site. So this is about on-site personalisation, search, merchandising, product bundles, recommendations, and about bringing this across your technology stacks. If we can provide those best experiences for your brand, you can start raising those AOVs and incrementality as well. The next one, which is quite a buzzword in the industry at the moment, is a CDP. This is your customer data platforms. And CDPs can take lots of different guises. You can have pure play CDPs that sit in the background and then attach to each of the different point solutions. So your CDP can be a decisioning engine that can run into like an email provider or an SMS provider or a customer services angle or direct mail, and your CDP can sit in the background as that kind of decisioning engine. And there's a few examples here, your segments, your lytics, your treasure bays, these type of things that quite often very large organizations are leveraging to make the decision on should you receive a postal DM or should you receive an email, for instance, as well. A lot of the structure with these kind of pure play CDPs would be in the finance and banking industries, very large retail who have lots of different outlets as well. The next type of approach now is this kind of CDP with marketing automation. And this is kind of the wave of starting to bring in a few of those different, what you would call point solutions, those email, those SMS, and bringing that into one central place to be able to kind of tie up to your CRM, your e-commerce, and then kind of skip the steps in between here as well and start layering on personalization over the top. So again, you've got some examples here, one of which is MAPP ourselves. And then the next stuff that kind of sits over the top of this and really important obviously for your boards, your directorships and customer understanding is the analytics that layer over the top. So you've got your classic GA4, I'm sure everyone's loved that migration over the last 18 months. The death of the non-third-party cookie, oh no, it's back, third-party cookies are fine from Google. We love all that stuff. So yeah, analytics is obviously important to understand your customer set, and also some of the CDPs, including MAPP, also have analytics provisions as well, here as well. And then finally, one others that I brought today, but I could be talking about gamification and other providers, is kind of loyalty. And loyalty's become a big topic in 2024, especially for those bricks and mortar retailers who are looking to have kind of app-based, points-based loyalty, driving people in stores, understanding their customers, tying up on-site and in-store behaviors. Again, that's where loyalty is coming to the fore. So what does this really mean for you guys? Well, look, it's a lot of logos and a lot of different brands and lots of different businesses, but ultimately, this marketecture can be what you want of it. There are businesses who would do the gold run, as this, this gentleman mentions, where they would take this kind of approach, right, and go from one to the other and join up every single point solution, best in breed, or every single thing and have a full stack. And that would look something like this. There's my little crazy animation. But it doesn't have to be that type of approach. It could be this type of approach, right, as well. But actually, more commonly, for the brands we're speaking to, it might look something like this, right, where you don't actually need to have every single step in the ladder, because by joining up 3 or 4 or 5 components, you've got enough coverage across your marketing execution stack to be able to understand your customers. And again, these are all examples of what they could be. I'm not saying these 6 are the most winning things that come together. It could be these 6 or 7 as well, right? So for you as a business, it's about understanding that kind of through-the-line approach to your customer set, what objectives you obviously have as a brand, and how you want to engage your customers. And then there are different ways to go and achieve those results. So, as I said, pure play CDP with point execution, more of a wider CDP with marketing automation. Smaller brands might just need email and e-com and a light touch CRM. So for you, it's all about understanding a bit of the landscape and then being able to have the conversation when it's the right appropriation for your brand. And CDPs such as ourselves, when we're having conversations, should be able to recognize what you have within your tech stack and where a solution can come in to be complementary, or be candid enough to say, look, if you're bringing on something like this, you should remove that other piece because it's actually duplication and wastage of marketing spend. So a lot of the early conversations that I have at MAPP with brands is about actually what's right balance for you guys, have you got the right coverage? And again, there are lots of nice transformation partners out who do this as well. Cool. So this is a little bit about the background to the kind of architecture that we've got here. But I wanted to start talking a little bit more about strategy, guys. So strategy, here we've got how things have shifted. So a few years ago, it was grow, 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 grow. And now it's all about bottom line, profit at no extra cost, and squeezing the margins as well. And from a strategies perspective, there are thousands of things of what you should optimize next. At the end of the presentation, I've got a link to all of these tactics, by the way. There's about 150 of them, free to download for you. I've got the QR code, so by all means take that away. But what we have got here is that hundreds of different tactics that you could be doing as a brand marketer, but what we need to do is actually rank and see what is going to be the most incrementality in terms of revenue. So we want to do that from what's the least amount of effort and investment, what provides the largest uplift in revenue, and what does not compromise your future growth by taking on some of these different pieces. And a lot of things like Twitter cards is a lot back in 2020, right? We don't need to be doing that stuff anymore. So things constantly change. So evaluating your tactics and what you should be doing is something that we can do. And what we say at MAPP is, marketing based on averages typically creates average results. So what do we mean by this? That if you're not getting to the stem of your data and understanding your customer set, your customers' buying cycles, what product they're next going to buy, your average purchase rates, you could be looking at industry benchmarks or your competitors and thinking this is the best course of action. Some examples here would be like, oh, we're going to do an abandoned basket campaign, and it's going to be 24 hours, 2 days, and 7 days, because that's what everyone else does. But actually, we need to go a bit more granular than that. We need to look at the data and the analytics as to understand what that means for our individual brands and our own consumers, if that's the right thing to do. Should our VIPs actually get something a lot more front-loaded? Should our people who've never purchased from us get more of a discount or more of an incentive? So again, by breaking down the data a little bit further, looking at it from your own kind of customer lens, we can then start looking at what's the best approach for yourselves. And a lot of this drives back to the analytics. So I would say, as marketers, if you've got a good handle on your GA4, your customer sets, your segments, then that is something to really kind of be proud of and start focusing from, because once you understand your customer set and customer demographic, you can then tailor the marketing campaigns accordingly. And look, we work with brands such as Toast, for instance, high-end retail, and 80% of their sales come from 20% of their customer set. So if they know that and they can target that and acknowledge that, then they can actually go and concentrate on those users, make sure retention is strong, make sure they're giving a real focus on those consumer set who are really the ones who are driving their bottom line of their revenues as well. So I've got this kind of slide and demographic here about how do you go and now build your ideal MarTech stack, looking at some of these kind of micro pieces, so data and insights, advanced segmentation, multi-channel, and focusing a little bit more on the world that we live in. But obviously you can do this type of stuff across your whole MarTech range. So the first one here, oh sorry, I think I've just done 2 slides, is looking at data and insights. So I mentioned that this is typically where we would start from. And look, there are a couple of product shots in from MAPP, but this is just how we go about it for some of our brands. But what we look to do typically is start understanding the customer. Let's see if that transition plays. If it doesn't not so matter. But understanding the data, looking at things like RFM modeling, next best action, product affiliation, days between purchase, first purchase into second purchase, what are people buying? By understanding those data points, you can then start doing your marketing strategies around it. And if you haven't got access to that data, then you're kind of a bit blind to how you could go and operate as well. So try and get your hands on this type of information, and if it's more actionable, even better. If you can take those segments and you can push it to Meta, if you can take this data, push it to Google Ads, or take it to your own channels, like your email, your SMS, your mobile push, all of these different pieces, then again, you're able to action that data better. And that's obviously from a CDP's perspective what MAPP are trying to achieve for our businesses as well. And when this is done right, it's a nice example from Creed, you can actually start seeing kind of the real granular micro detail for those individual brands. It's a very small screenshot, I'm sure you can get this later, but you've got all of their brands on the left-hand side, you've got their first purchases, and then what they go on and purchase next. So for a business like Creed, who are high in fragrance, they have lots of different journeys going on, from sample sets right through to 50 ml, 100 ml splash bottles. They've got to understand what the residency and cadence is between each of these different products so they can go and cross-sell and upsell better as well. The next one down at the bottom is actually like a days between orders. And they can look at this from like a 50 ml bottle to a 100 ml bottle. And the learning here for them was actually that 180 days was an average for a 50 ml bottle retention. But for double the amount of milliliters, so 100 ml rather than 50 ml, it was actually only an extra 25 days longer. So it was 205 days for a 100 ml bottle replen and 180 days for a 50 ml. Once you start understanding that across your product sets, you can go into your marketing automation tool, and then you can go and change your cadences, your retention, your replen, your cross-sells, your personalization strategies. All of that stuff can come together, but it comes from the data. And that learning is for Creed, right? That learning isn't for the brands in this room. So that's why I say it comes back here. But understanding these type of affiliations and getting your hands on this allows you to build your strategy together as well. And again, it's not just about our part of the business, I would say, in terms of marcoms, but it does also influence about buyers, merchandising rules, what should be shown on site. All of these different types of things, again, allows them to kind of bring all of this data together and, yeah, personalize better on site as well. From a MAPP perspective and from a customer perspective, for sure you need to look at your segmentation. So understanding your customer sets, taking that analytical data and starting to bring this together. So from a MAPP perspective, when we look at our brands and who we're working with, we take all of this type of demographic data as well. So we have what you call profile-based data. You want all that rich transactional data, whether it's from Shopify or your Magento. You want to bring that data in. You've got all the stuff in green, which is like your messaging data. And then we start layering all the behavioral data, which is your real-time analytics on the website, and also all of those type of engagement touch points. So we call this like the best in breed. And how do you find the right audience? Well, finding the right audience is all about combination of all of this type of data. So get yourselves into a good segmentation tool, being able to bring that data together, create those micro segments, and then you can create the right automations, the right dynamic content, inject with the right personalization. This is the type of stuff that we can do. Next up is just about channel execution. So as I said before, you've got point solutions, you've got different types of things here. But again, from a MAPP perspective, email, SMS, mobile push, in-app, web push, on-site. By bringing some of these channels together, you can make sure that the messaging is coherent across the landscape, and also you can react to how users behave. So with people like Dunnes Stores, who are like the Irish M&S, again, mobile push and kind of email in tandem, looking at loyalty and different flows, you want to understand what the customer is resonating with. Having features like best channel, best send out time. Again, these are things that can really drive your bottom line and also customer understanding. And here's a really nice case study from Pizza Express, who's a long-term client over at MAPP, and hopefully you have their app, and if you don't, I really recommend you getting it. I think they're over about 2.5 million now in terms of active users on their app, which is pretty incredible in the last 3 years since this has been built. And this is all around joining up loyalty. You've probably seen the pizza stamps if you have that. They're one of the first retailers to be able to tie off bricks and mortar in-store pizzas they sell in supermarkets with QR codes and stamps. They understand which shop you purchased in, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, right through to delivering through their app, right through to purchasing in store. And they've all built this app to then obviously have a great experience for their users, paying for tables, booking for tables, making it completely seamless. And from a MAPP perspective, we're helping to drive the right offer into the app, the right loyalty messaging, the right mobile push applications and notifications, and in-app messaging as well. And they've really started drilling into gamification in here as well. So if they haven't got a purchase, you've not got a reason to go to Pizza Express, they still want you to engage as well through their gamification. The next one is a really cool one for PepsiCo. This is looking at AR and VR and all the great things that brands have these kind of experimental ideas to do. Obviously, if your marketing budgets are large enough, you can do these type of things. But still with PepsiCo, the undercurrent of all this data was first party. So for that value exchange that they were giving to their users, they still wanted to collect email addresses, SMS numbers, opt-ins, right, and drive that behind it. So whatever experience you're giving out to your brands, wherever you're seeing your customers, whether that's in-store, online, gamification, make sure there's that value exchange, that zero-party exchange, where you can collect that data, because if they're not going to buy in session, you sure as hell want to kind of bring them back again, right? So try and get that value exchange through pop-ups, dedicated targeting, things like this as well. Next up, we've just got a couple more. I know I've only got a couple of minutes left. We've got some like web personalization and recommendations. This one's Nosto powered, our great partner over at Nosto. For Peacocks, again, looking at the on-site, understanding customer behaviors, bringing through the right type of personalization, not just into the channel outputs, like your email, your mobile push, for instance, but also on-site, and creating that seamless experience through the line as well. Next up at the moment is one of my favorite ones. This is like for Milwaukee, and this is using user-generated content. So a lot of the time, we're looking at brands. We have a brand like Farrow & Ball who are very ethereal, very particular about their imagery and how they want to act. But when they want to sell something, they don't want to just put a paint can in front of the user and say, lovely, lovely brown can here with a lovely dolphin nose or elephant's breath name, right? They want to actually show the UGC, the user-generated content of that room in the lifestyle imagery. So if you can leverage your user-generated content, if you're getting user-generated content, not only showing it on site, but bringing that into maybe email as a channel, that authenticity really speaks well at the moment and gets a lot of cut through in the inbox we're finding as well. And next up, obviously we are in the AI theatre, so I'm mentioning a few things. I know my colleague Lara spoke yesterday regarding AI. But what we're finding here, because obviously AI is quite a buzzword at the moment, is we're using it at MAPP to really create efficiencies, forecasting, and also like notifications for marketers. We really understand that marketers can only have certain amount of kind of eyes on certain tooling at all the certain times, right? So what we're trying to do here with things like process monitoring, automatic segment detection, is make the life easier for marketers by surfacing those pieces, and then you're able to act on it accordingly. So if there's a problem with a checkout, you want to know now, not in 2 weeks' time on your Monday trade report meeting. If we can surface that and say, okay, this is the causation, maybe let's say an issue on PPC, and it's down by 25% on this particular time, if we can show that to you guys, you can make that fix accordingly and speak to the right agency or sort that out in-house as well. So again, that's where AI is kind of working from a MAPP perspective, is around predictive behaviors, content generation, of course, subject lines, content, go fetching, bullet pointing, paraphrasing. And also one of my favorites at the moment is for those brands who are working across multi-channel, spending quite a lot on translation agencies. AI has some good translation capability now. So again, you could be translating into French, Spanish, but we've also done into Arabic for Olka in Egypt, for instance, as well. So again, there's quite a lot of cool stuff that's happening with AI. And a lot of people ask, what are the practical implications of it? Not just, okay, this kind of fad that we can do. So within MAPP, we're trying to embed it in as being like resonating, a useful technology that really helps empower our marketers, understand their data, and then go and action that as well. And then finally, between all that MarTech stack, you really got to be thinking about how you're integrating this data, right? So integration comes with kind of seamless approaches, and obviously trying to get as much real time across that technology stack as possible, and the data in your right hands allows the marcoms to flow really nicely. So yeah, everything around the kind of APIs, being two-way API based as well, which allows us to go and potentially query an external loyalty platform, or not have to put every single piece of data in your organization into the same single thing. That is also really helpful now, because as you guys are maybe building out your data warehouse, your other data repositories, you don't want to just lift your whole data warehouse and store it in another place, because it's costly and cumbersome really as well. So what you want to do is you want to query those right elements at the right time, and that's what you can do with kind of two-way open APIs in these type of CDPs. And again, bringing that other data in just naturally occurs through all the other app pieces as well. So a couple of fun little examples from CPG, because it's my heartland as well, just to finish, but this is one for Pladis. Again, looking and taking advantage of every single customer touch point. So these guys have started really in the last couple of years building up their first party presence, using QR codes on pack, use your packaging, use a flyer, any piece where you are touching the customer and you want to try and engage them, be able to do that first party exchange. And this is starting to build up through these different type of things. And then finally, again, if you're not doing kind of any kind of on-pack activity, then this is another example of using social lead gen. This is an example for P&G, using kind of middleware to bring data in. So not only are they collecting the opt-in, they're finding out a little bit more about that customer that they can then use in how they want to communicate back. So for everyone in the room, this is looking at kind of differences between what type of toothbrush they're using now, regularity of purchase or whatever it may be, and they take that information and then they build out their customer segments based on this and then can work it through. So yeah, just a final 1 minute on kind of MAPP and kind of how we look to do this ourselves. Obviously, we are a CDP. So yeah, at MAPP, we're all about trying to understand and build this customer profile, take all of that rich data we've discussed from online, real-time attribution, all of that information, store that against the customer, and then we look to push that out onto the right channel at the right time with the engagement activity, the personalisation, and also the analytics. That kind of allows us to speak to the customers when they need to be spoken to as well. Cool, so just a couple of things to finish, just the obligatory logo slide of who MAPP are working with. Been in this space for over 25 years. So yeah, have a nice logo range, but right across the board from retail through to travel, through to, to e-com, to publishers as well. And then finally, as I mentioned, this one on the left-hand side, guys, links through to our top 10 tactics, but also we've got something called improve.yourmarketing. It's a free website, you can all go there, and you just download and build up this kind of like playbook for your strategies for this year. So it's an online resource, you can go in and you can actually pull out the tactics that you like, and you can storyboard it, and create like a timeline of what you would like to do. And it's quite a nice one to go and take to your kind of marcoms and planning teams and say, actually, as a brand, this is what we're going to go and do together, and these are the kind of key tactics that we might want to go and implement. And there's 150 free strategies on there, so by all means go and take that away. And then finally, I'm Josh, I'm on the left-hand side, so if you want to connect with me, I'm more than happy to do that on LinkedIn. And then as MAPP today, we're over at K28, so if you want to hear a little bit more, we're just opposite one of the central theatres in the middle. So yeah, by all means, come and see me. We've got some flyers out here as well. The team in the black t-shirts and with the little MAPP logo. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the talk.